The Prairie Traveler, a handbook for overland expeditions. Chapter 2. Marching. The success of a long expedition through an unpopulated country depends mainly on the care taken of the animals and the manner in which they are driven, herded, and guarded. If they are broken down or lost, everything must be sacrificed, and the party becomes perfectly helpless. The great error into which inexperienced travelers are liable to fall, and which probably occasions more suffering and disaster than almost anything else, lies in overworking their cattle at the commencement of the journey. To obviate this, short and easy drives should be made until the teams become habituated to their work and gradually inured to this particular method of traveling. If animals are overloaded and overworked when they first start out into the prairies, especially if they have recently been taken from grain, they soon fall away and give out before reaching the end of the journey. Grass and water are abundant and good upon the eastern portions of all the different overland routes. Animals should not, therefore, with proper care, fall away in the least before reaching the mountains, as west of them are long stretches where grass and water are scarce, and it requires the full amount of strength and vigor of animals in good condition to endure the fatigues and hard labor attendant upon the passage of these deserts. Drivers should be closely watched, and never, unless absolutely necessary, permitted to beat their animals, or to force them out of a walk, as this will soon break down the best teams. Those teamsters who make the least use of the whip invariably keep their animals in the best condition. Unless the drivers are checked at the outset, they are very apt to fall into the habit of flogging their teams. It is not only wholly unnecessary but cruel, and should never be tolerated. In traveling with ox teams in the summer season, great benefit will be derived from making early marches, starting with the dawn, and making a nooning during the heat of the day, as oxen suffer much from the heat of the sun in midsummer. These noon halts should, if possible, be so arranged as to be near grass and water, where the animals can improve their time in grazing. When it gets cool, they may be hitched to the wagons again, and the journey continued in the afternoon. 16 or 18 miles a day may thus be made without injury to the beasts, and longer drives can never be expedient, unless in order to reach grass or water. When the requisites for encamping cannot be found at the desired intervals, it is better for the animals to make a very long drive than to encamp without water or grass. The noon halt in such cases may be made without water, and the evening drive lengthened. Careful management of teams at the beginning preserves their strength for the more difficult portions of the journey ahead. Treatment of animals. Proper treatment of animals is essential throughout the march. Drivers must be supervised constantly to prevent abuse. Beating or forcing animals beyond a walk breaks them down quickly. Kind but firm handling keeps teams in the best condition. In summer with oxen, early starts and midday rests near grass and water are highly beneficial. Animals should receive full rest and grazing opportunities when possible. Overloading at the start is a common and costly mistake. Gradual conditioning allows teams to adapt to prairie travel. Spare animals should be provided to replace any that weaken. Daily inspections of harness, feet, and general condition prevent many problems. When wagons break down, loads should be shifted promptly so the affected team can catch up. Animals in good condition at the mountains will endure the arid stretches beyond. Consistent, humane treatment throughout ensures the expedition reaches its destination without catastrophic loss of transport. Water. The scarcity of water upon some of the routes across the plains occasionally exposes the traveler to intense suffering and renders it a matter of much importance for him to learn the best methods of guarding against the disasters liable to occur to men and animals in the absence of this most necessary element. In mountainous districts, water can generally be found either in springs, the dry beds of streams, or in holes in the rocks, where they are sheltered from rapid evaporation. For example, in the Hueco tanks 30 miles east of El Paso, New Mexico, upon the Fort Smith Road, where there is an immense reservoir in a cave, water can always be found. This reservoir receives the drainage of a mountain. During a season of the year when there are occasional showers, water will generally be found in low places where there is a substratum of clay. But after the dry season has set in, these pools evaporate, and it is necessary to dig wells. The lowest spots should be selected for this purpose when the grass is green and the surface earth moist. In searching for water along the dry, sandy beds of streams, it is well to try the earth with a stick or ramrod, and if this indicates moisture, water will generally be obtained by excavation. Streams often sink in light and porous sand, and sometimes make their appearance again lower down, where the bed is more tenacious. But it is a rule with prairie travelers, in searching for water in a sandy country, to ascend the streams, and the nearer their sources are approached, the more water will be found in a dry season. Where it becomes necessary to sink a well in a stream the bed of which is quicksand, a flour barrel, perforated with small holes, should be used as a curb, to prevent the sand from caving in. The barrel must be forced down as the sand is removed, and when, as is often the case, there is an undercurrent through the sand, the well will be continually filled with water. There are many indications of water known to old campaigners, although none of them are absolutely infallible. The most certain of them are deep green cottonwood or willow trees growing in depressed localities, also flags, water rushes, tall green grass, etc. The fresh tracks and trails of animals converging toward a common center, and the flight of birds and waterfowl toward the same points will also lead to water. Jornadas. In some localities, 50 or 60 miles and even greater distances are frequently traversed without water. These long stretches are called by the Mexicans jornadas, or day's journeys. There is one in New Mexico called Jornada del Muerto, which is 78.5 miles in length, where, in a dry season, there is not a drop of water. Yet with proper care, this drive can be made with ox or mule teams and without loss or injury to the animals. On arriving at the last camping ground before entering upon the jornada, all the animals should be as well rested and refreshed as possible. To ensure this, they must be turned out upon the best grass that can be found, and allowed to eat and drink as much as they desire during the entire halt. Should the weather be very warm and the teams composed of oxen, the march should not be resumed until it begins to cool in the afternoon. They should be carefully watered just previous to being hitched up and started out upon the jornada, the water kegs having been previously filled. The drive is then commenced and continued during the entire night, with 10 or 15 minutes rest every 2 hours. About daylight, a halt should be made, and the animals immediately turned out to graze for 2 hours, during which time, especially if there is dew upon the grass, they will have become considerably refreshed, and may be put to the wagons again and driven until the heat becomes oppressive toward noon, when they are again turned out upon a spot where the grass is good, and if possible where there are shade trees. About 4 p.m. they are again started, and the march continued into the night, and as long as they can be driven without suffering. If, however, there should be dew, which is seldom the case on the plains, it would be well to turn out the animals several times during the second night, and by morning, if they are in good condition, the jornada of 70 or 80 miles will have been passed without any great amount of suffering. I am supposing in this case that the road is firm and free from sand. Advance and rear guards. A few men, well mounted, should constitute the advance and rear guards for each train of wagons passing through the Indian country. Their duty will be to keep a vigilant lookout in all directions, and to reconnoiter places where Indians would be likely to lie in ambush. Should hostile Indians be discovered, the fact should be at once reported to the commander, who, if he anticipates an attack, will rapidly form his wagons into a circle, or corral, with the animals toward the center, and the men on the inside, with their arms in readiness to repel an attack from without. If these arrangements be properly attended to, few parties of Indians will venture to make an attack, as they are well aware that some of their warriors might pay with their lives the forfeit of such indiscretion. I know an instance where one resolute man, pursued for several days by a large party of Comanches on the Santa Fe Trace, defended himself by dismounting and pointing his rifle at the foremost whenever they came near him, which always had the effect of turning them back. This was repeated so often that the Indians finally abandoned the pursuit and left the traveler to pursue his journey without farther molestation. During all this time he did not discharge his rifle. Had he done so, he would doubtless have been killed. Advance and rear guards provide early warning and allow time to prepare defenses, greatly increasing the safety of the entire party in hostile territory. Selection of camp. The security of animals, and indeed the general safety of a party, in traveling through a country occupied by hostile Indians, depends greatly upon the judicious selection of camps. One of the most important considerations that should influence the choice of a locality is its capability for defense. If the camp be pitched beside a stream, a concave bend, where the water is deep, with a soft alluvial bed enclosed by high and abrupt banks, will be the most defensible, and all the more should the concavity form a peninsula. The advantages of such a position are obvious to a soldier's eye, as that part of the encampment enclosed by the stream is naturally secure and leaves only one side to be defended. The concavity of the bend will enable the defending party to cross its fire in case of attack from the exposed side. The bend of the stream will also form an excellent corral in which to secure animals from a stampede, and thereby diminish the number of sentinels needful around the camp. In herding animals at night within the bend of a stream, a spot should be selected where no clumps of brush grow on the side where the animals are posted. If thickets of brush cannot be avoided, sentinels should be placed near them to guard against Indians, who might take advantage of this cover to steal animals or shoot them down with arrows before their presence were known. In camping away from streams, it is advisable to select a position in which one or more sides of the encampment shall rest upon the crest of an abrupt hill or bluff. The Prairie Indians make their camps upon the summits of the hills, whence they can see in all directions, and thus avoid a surprise. The line of tents should be pitched on that side of the camp most exposed to attack, and sentinels so posted that they may give alarm in time for the main body to rally and prepare for defense. Proper camp selection enhances both security and comfort while minimizing risks from surprise attacks or stampedes. Sanitary considerations. When camping near rivers and lakes surrounded by large bodies of timber and a luxuriant vegetation, which produces a great amount of decomposition and consequent exhalations of malaria, it is important to ascertain what localities will be the least likely to generate disease and to affect the sanitary condition of men occupying them. This subject has been thoroughly examined by Dr. Robert Johnson, Inspector General of Hospitals in the English Army in 1845, and, as his conclusions are deduced from enlarged experience and extended research, they should have great weight. Camp diseases most abound near the muddy banks of large rivers, near swamps and ponds, and on grounds which have been recently stripped of their woods. Encampments should avoid the immediate vicinity of swamps and rivers where the air is noxious. The influence of such noxious exhalations does not extend beyond a certain limit, and rising grounds, woods, or other impediments can break the current and weaken its pernicious effects. A position a moderate distance from the margin on level ground is often less unhealthy than one farther away on an exposed height, where the cause strikes more forcibly amid irregular temperatures and winds. Guard against strong winds independently of their source, as they can carry noxious matter. Experience shows that simple wetting with rain in the open air rarely causes sickness when men are inured to weather, whereas crowding in close tents generates moisture and contagion from earth exhalations and accumulated animal emanations. Tents with painted canvas floors, light roofs, and moderate sidewalls provide better protection than fully enclosed ones. The streams intersecting the Great Prairies have sparse vegetation on their banks, so one of the fundamental causes of malaria is largely absent, and persons may often encamp with impunity directly upon them. Proper attention to these principles preserves the health of the party and prevents fevers and other camp diseases that have destroyed many expeditions. Dr. Jackson's report. Dr. Robert Johnson's report, introduced here for its practical value drawn from military experience, emphasizes that camp diseases thrive near stagnant or decomposing areas rather than in well-ventilated open spaces, as some theories once suggested. Fashion and unproven opinions have led to harmful placements despite contrary facts from observation. The noxious influence ascends and is amplified by height and irregular air movement, making broken hilly terrain more dangerous than steady plains with gentle breezes. Crowding men in unventilated tents raises internal temperatures and encourages moisture from the earth, producing conditions far more injurious than exposure to weather outside. Historical examples, such as high mortality in crowded barracks, prisons like the Black Hole of Calcutta, and overloaded ship holds, demonstrate the deadly effects of poor ventilation and accumulated emanations. In contrast, irregular troops with minimal shelter suffer far less contagion. For prairie travel, where timber is sparse along streams, these risks are reduced, but vigilance in site selection remains essential. The report advocates practical remedies like canvas flooring to block earth moisture and lighter tent designs. These insights, validated across armies and climates, guide travelers to choose elevated, breezy, and open camps away from swamps, while avoiding unnecessary enclosure that breeds its own hazards. Following such sanitary rules significantly lowers sickness rates on long journeys. Picket guards. When a party is sufficiently strong, a picket guard should be stationed during the night some 200 or 300 yards in advance of the point most open to assault, and on low ground, so that an enemy approaching over higher country can be seen against the sky while the sentinel remains screened. Sentinels should not keep fires unless hidden from distant view. During the day, pickets occupy summits of high eminences for vigilant lookout in all directions. If beyond hailing distance, they use pre-agreed telegraphic signals, raising a cap on a rifle muzzle and circling for distant Indians, swinging the cap and running in a circle for near rapid approach, pointing the piece and walking in the direction to indicate origin. Sudden nearby threats warrant firing to alarm the camp. These signals, when understood, greatly enhance security and communication. All persons except guards and herders must remain within sentinel limits after dark. Picket guards receive strict, minute orders known to the entire party to avoid false alarms. On dark nights, sitting improves visibility and reduces exposure. Horses and especially mules detect strangers through acute hearing and smell, signaling by erect ears, fixed stance, and head direction, prompting immediate alertness. Dogs can assist but often sleep soundly. Well-posted and disciplined pickets provide early warning, enabling timely defense and preventing surprise attacks or stampedes in hostile territory. Stampedes. A stampede is more to be dreaded upon the plains than almost any disaster that can happen. It not unfrequently occurs that very many animals are irretrievably lost in this way, and the objects of an expedition thus defeated. Horses and mules become frightened and run from slight causes such as a wolf or deer passing near, or even without perceptible reason, as when an entire herd of 200 scattered for miles. Indians excel at causing stampedes by approaching stealthily with rattles and frightful noises, then rushing in screaming to terrify the animals and drive them away while dividing their party to pursue and resist recovery. To prevent stampedes, maintain vigilant herding and guarding at all times. Enclosures or corrals protect animals when threats appear. Secure good horses ready for instant use by herdsmen, who should ride the bell mare to turn the herd back toward camp gradually. In Indian country, anticipate attempts and keep herds close. Experience shows that proper organization, night corralling, and alert guards greatly reduce risks. Once started, animals may scatter widely, requiring days to recover and potentially dooming the journey. Constant attention to animal behavior and early intervention preserve the transportation essential for success across the plains. Corralling wagons. When a halt is made, the wagons are corralled by bringing the two front ones near and parallel, then driving the next pair outside with front wheels touching rear wheels of the previous, turning the rear outward to form a circle, continuing until complete. An opening of about 20 yards between the last wagons allows animals to pass in and out, closable with ropes. This forms an excellent barricade against Indian attacks and a secure enclosure for yoking cattle. Similar enclosures protect horses and mules during stampede attempts. Corralling provides a strong defensive position where men inside with arms can repel assaults, while animals remain safe in the center. It is indispensable for large trains in hostile areas and facilitates orderly camp routines. Proper formation requires practice but becomes efficient with experience. When combined with picket guards and careful site selection, corrals transform an open camp into a fortified position capable of withstanding significant threats. Travelers should always prioritize quick and correct corralling upon halting, especially at night or in dangerous country, to safeguard both people and livestock throughout the expedition.